Hello everybody and welcome to the 8th and final video in our series of videos on the French Revolution. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes, so by the end of this presentation you guys should know the challenges facing the convention in August of 1793. You guys should know what the Terror and the Great Terror were and how they came about. And finally, you guys should know how Robespierre was removed from power. So the general date that is given for the beginning of the Reign of Terror is the 5th of September, as one of the delegates of the convention stated that terror would be the order of the day. France found itself in a very difficult position at this time. There was a rebellion in the Vendée. The cities of Marseille, Toulon, and Lyon rose up against the convention, known as the Federal Revolts. Um, also, as this was going on, the French army was struggling to hold back the combined forces of the Austrians, the British, the Dutch, the Prussians, and the Spanish. And finally, there was that constant threat to power in the city of Paris. So, how did they deal with these threats? On the 23rd of August 1793, the convention introduced the Vale Mass, which was a mass conscription program in which all able bodied men between the age of 18 and 25 had to join the army. Now, remember, it was the conscription in February of 1793 that caused the Vendée to rise up against the French. But now, because France were in such a bad position, people were willing to join this call to conscription. By April of the next year, 1794, they had an army of 750,000 men. And we compare this with the combined Prussian and Austrian army, which was less than 100,000. So with this mass army, also then they were finally able to defeat the rebel Royal and Catholic army in the Vendée. What the convention did next could be classified as genocide, as it sent 12 army divisions through the Vendée called the Infernal Columns, where they terrorized the Vendée and murdered over 6,000 people, men, women, and children, without any kind of trial or anything like that. They also defeated the cities and unleashed similar force in Lyon in particular. So the thing that gave the convention the power to implement all of these measures was first that they introduced a bill called the Law of Suspects on the 17th of September 1793. And here, the new courts, which were known as the Revolutionary Tribunals, were given the power to conduct trials at a rapid pace and sometimes without any evidence being heard at all, or the victim being able to defend themselves. This led to people being denounced by neighbours and facing executions without a fair trial. This law, along with the law of maxims passed on the 29th of September, helped to keep the sans-culottes on the side of Robespierre and the Jacobins, remember, who held power in the convention. They set a maximum price that could be charged on essential foodstuffs so that the price of things like bread would remain affordable, especially for the poor of Paris. So this is how they kept the volatile Parisians in check. Finally, what they did then, it was on the October the 10th, with the armies once again closing in on Paris, the convention brought in the Emergency Powers Act, which gave them, well, those at the top of the government, emergency powers, so they could deal with any threats to the power, whether they come from either the left or the right, and they could deal with them very ruthlessly. An example of this was on March 30th, when Georges Danton and Camille Desmoulins, the leaders of the old Cordeliers. Danton had been one of the key leaders in the government up until this point. Desmoulins, remember, who famously called for the attack on the Bastille all the way back in 1789. They were arrested and seen as threats to the revolution. And within a week, they were both found guilty and executed by guillotine. This time, of course, is known as the Reign of Terror. However, there is a 6-week period that gets the title of the Great Terror. And on the This started on June the 20th of 1794 when the law of 22 Prairial was passed, which expanded the terror by removing all the rights of accused persons. In that 6 weeks that followed, 1,400 people were executed in Paris by guillotine. Robespierre, who remember was president of the convention, led the Committee of Public Safety, became more and more paranoid. His speeches were beginning to show this in the convention. He was constantly talking about unnamed people trying to undermine the revolution to get at him. His speeches became so paranoid, and there was so much bloodshed going on in Paris at the time, that the delegates, fearing for their own safety, they decided that they would make a move against Robespierre. They moved to arrest him on the 26th of July. Robespierre fled and he attempted to commit suicide. However, after badly wounding his jaw with a gunshot, he was arrested and brought bleeding profusely to the guillotine to be executed. Now, this bloody event marked the end of the terror, and really one of the most important and famous chapters of the French Revolution. The French Revolution, some would say, continues on until the restoration of the Bourbons in 1815 with the defeat of Napoleon. However, as far as we are going to look at the French Revolution, it ends here with the death of Robespierre and the end of the Great Terror in July of 1794. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So by now you guys should know the challenges facing the convention in August of 1793 and how they reacted to them. You guys should know what the terror and the Great Terror were and how they came about. And finally, you guys should know how Robespierre was removed from power. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys got something good from this video.